Eject. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Debbie. Today I wanted to share this video with you guys of Amber Heard. She was giving a speech at a women's march, and she didn't specifically reference Johnny. Again, it's clear that she's talking about Johnny, and this march happened, I think it was January 18th of 2020, so beginning of this year. So the case would have already been going on. So, and she says, in her filings that Johnny is harassing her, that she never talks about him, but still her campaign continues to, to this day, or at least to very recently, trying to. And if you listen to the speech, which I'm gonna obviously enclose the whole thing, it makes you kind of sick how she's well, in my opinion anyways, masquerading as a victim, and it's just kind of sad. But let's just get into it. Let's not take too long, and then when we get back, we can discuss it. Okay.
Hi. So obviously I was going to lead the march this morning, but instead they let me say a few words. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that's here, and thank you for letting me be here. It's an honor. It's an honor to join the chorus, to be among the many powerful voices here to represent the wave of change we have seen sweep this country, the world, by fire. That is why I am so honored to stand here with you all now, to join in this great collection of voices, dedicated to not only realizing the tremendous power we possess when we come together, but to do so with the unprecedented strength and power we've acquired through our combined commitment and relentless dedication. We are here to make sure we recognize all the power we have when we come together, all the progress we made in doing so, and to recognize how much we still have to go to see that full equality is a reality for all of us. In the home and at work, in our schools and in the boardrooms, in our pay and our physical safety, in public and in private, in principle and in practice, no matter our age, our race, creed, color, or class. A few years ago, I, like you, awoke to a world that was starting to catch flame. It started slowly. I arose from my bed one day, a few years into my own private battle, and I smelled the smoke. I had for years walked with tired and weary feet into battle every single day, alone, privately, longing for a different kind of world than the one in which I used to live. One that reminded me that despite all that I had done and fought for, all I had said and survived before and through my very public, heart-wrenchingly lonely battle for justice, that I, a woman, would never truly see it. That my voice couldn't fully count. That despite what it took for me to stand up and finally raise my voice and to speak my truth, it didn't really matter. The deck was stacked against me in ways I couldn't even begin to imagine. I learned what many women inherently know before they reach adulthood, that in my speaking out, instead of aid, support, respect. I would be met instead with hostility, skepticism, and shame. My motives would be questioned, my truth ignored, and I would do so alone. That world reminded me daily, despite the privileged life I lived as a white woman in the entertainment industry, despite the tremendous luxuries enjoyed by many of us women and otherwise traditionally marginalized groups in the Western developed world, despite all the steps taken and earned by generations before us, that I was never to be anything but a discreetly silenced second-class citizen. That I, in having stood up against the time-honored legacy of a male-dominated power structure, somehow forfeited that perceived privilege in exchange for a seemingly endless life of relentless struggle, denial, shame, and aloneness. That is the price many of us know we have to make in raising our voices. And that's why so many of us don't speak up. We know intuitively, long before we are old enough to vote, that kind of freedom isn't really ours unless we accept that condition. That freedom from us comes at all too high a price. Our voice. And I, for one, think silence and acceptance is simply too damn high a price to pay. Along with democracy, we get the concept of freedom of speech from the Greeks, who said parrhesia, which means not simply freedom of speech per se, but rather fearless speech. The freedom to speak truth to power. Freedom to speak truth to power. And to me, that is freedom. That is equality. When we no longer have to forfeit our dignity, our respect, or our safety in order to do just that. Then a flame caught, was ignited, and it caught the world on fire. And I am here today in that, to join my voice with yours in recognizing that times are changing. And they are changing because we stepped out of the shadows and into the light and lifted our voices into a movement, recognizing that we, together, standing shoulder to shoulder, comprise a vast, unstoppable force for change. No longer willing or able to accept silence, and no longer willing or able to pay the cost for anything less. You, like me, see yourself not as a victim to this world, but rather as a member of it, of a growing class of women, people, committed to our place in the fight for a new one. You, like me, awoke to a world that was and is changing and was changing fast. I woke up to the smell of smoke and the sound of voices. I walked with tired feet into the stream of moving cries for change, chanting a battle cry that lingers still today, a song of a new era. This is the song of a new generation of voices, minds, of people, daughters of a generation of equality. We have inherited far too much to be resigned to accept injustice, and together we are far too strong to excuse it any longer. I want to thank you all today for being here and being a part of changing our world. I want to thank every one of you who wakes up and looks for the flame and the sounds of chanting and thinks, yes, fuck yes, enough is enough, time is up, me too, our lives matter. It is worth fighting for a world where things are better, where things are more fair for everyone. People like who I am honored to stand here and welcome to the stage next. West Hollywood Mayor Pro Tempore Lindsay Horvath, a warrior for civic and social justice. She has spearheaded policies to better serve residents of all ages and created the West Hollywood Community Response Team for Domestic Violence. Mayor Pro Tempore is a leader on women's issues, leading a global campaign to end violence against women and girls. She also champions for LGBTQ rights and represented the city of West Hollywood in the National Equality March in Washington, D.C. In short, she's a badass. And she is working tirelessly to make our communities safer, healthier, and more inclusive. Please welcome Mayor Pro Tempore Lindsay Horvath.
I love how she says, they were gonna let me lead the march, but they just let me say a few words. Like, you should not be leading any kind of march that has anything to do with women. You do not represent women. You do not. You just don't. Nor do you represent, victims of domestic violence or sexual violence or anything like that. You just don't. I don't know. It just kind of is sad that she is choosing to self-appoint herself as this kind of spokesperson when she really is anything but. And it's just, it's difficult to watch. She talks about all the progress that women have made, but she doesn't talk about all the progress that she's ruined. How far backwards she has pushed us as women. Now, I mean, there's always the presumption that you are innocent until proven guilty, but now, I feel like the burden of proof is going to be much higher for any women that come forward. And women, it was already difficult enough to be believed before, but now it's going to be even harder. So I think just through that alone, she has just pushed women back decades. While I agree that, there's still ways to go for women to be truly equal, men still earn more than women. And, and just for an example, in terms of, quote unquote slut shaming, guys can do whatever and they're praised. And if women does the same, then she's called a slut and she's shamed for it. There's still a long ways to go for women to be truly equal. But the type of feminism that I think Amber has in her head is not being equal. It's taking advantage of men. It's being above men, better than men. And so I don't think that Amber even wants to be truly equal to anybody. She wants to be better, or she even truly thinks, she thinks that she's better than everybody. In her mind, she doesn't want to be equal. She thinks she's above everybody. That's my opinion, allegedly. And she begins to make some kind of metaphor about smelling the smoke a few years into her private battle or something. She's obviously referring to her relationship with Johnny, and she says smelling the smoke, whatever that means. And then she talks about a private battle that she had for years with weary feet. Bitch, your feet were in Louboutins. What do you mean weary feet? You were driven around in limos wearing whatever, Chanel, I don't know, Louboutins, Manolos, Jimmy Choos. Your feet were fine. Your foot now, though, ain't looking so good, or at least it wasn't now. It looks broken. And I saw, an interview or something when she got out of her car, her drive car or whatever. The guy's like, oh, what happened? And then Amber said, you should see the other girl. So clearly your feet are not good now. Your feet are going through it now. But they were living their best life when you were with Johnny. Let's be real. And she talks about her public, long, heart-wrenching battle for justice. I don't think that's what it was, sweetie. It wasn't about justice. It was about publicity and money. That's what I think. And if it's all about justice, why have you tried to get, Johnny's countersuit thrown out so many times? Like, it's just frustrating. Then she talks about what it finally took her to speak up and raise her voice and speak her truth. What it took was him having enough of your abuse, and he was going to leave your ass. So you figured you had to get ahead of the problem. And if you weren't going to have him, you were at least going to come up off of him. Because then if you wouldn't have him to take you to all these fancy events and, the Met Gala and this and that, you had to find a way to up your publicity so that, you could make it without him. Because you were used to a certain lifestyle. And it wasn't just about the money. It was about, being attached to someone who was A-list, who, let's be real, before him, you were, like, not A-list, not even close. You didn't want to give that up. So the only way to do that was to throw him under the bus. And it's almost like, because he was such a big name, then you would kind of be at the same level, right? So that's basically what it took. And that's also a trait of narcissists and people that are not all there, where it's kind of like, if I can't have you, nobody can. And then she talks about how the odds were stacked against her. No, it seems like to me you were hooking up with Elon Musk and bringing him to your penthouse with Johnny while you were still married to Johnny. And people think Johnny is a powerful man. How isn't Elon way more powerful of a man? And you told him your little sob story so he would cape for you, and you played your little damsel in distress card with him. And when you have a billionaire / powerful man like Elon Musk behind you, Johnny is nothing to you. So the odds were not stacked against you. And she mentions that her motives would be questioned, which is kind of similar to what she said in her press conference in the UK case. I just noticed that. Then she talks about being met with hostility and going through it alone. No, sweetie, everyone was siding with you when you came out, okay? Johnny's career was basically ruined at the time, and he lost out on Pirates of the Caribbean. Everyone was taking your side. You ended up becoming a woman of worth with L'Oreal as an ambassador, and you started doing this fake activist stuff. So don't act like your career took a nosedive, because you came up off of that. So I can't even. And she was on to say, I stood up to the male-dominated power structure. Just look at her air of arrogance when she speaks. It's nauseating. So, but yeah, of course she says that Johnny is the one that's harassing her. Johnny is the one that defamed her. Johnny, I think I talked about this before. Implication can still be defamation. So it's very heavily implied that she's discussing Johnny. What else could she possibly be referring to? And while she doesn't go into specifics, it's obvious that she's alluding to whatever she's already talked about before, right? Which is that she was abused by Johnny. So how can she be terrified? How can she be all these things when even when the case was going on, she was, discussing these things publicly? So I don't buy anything that she says. And she is the one that's kind of harassing him, and she won't keep his name out of her mouth, really. But one thing that's good is that, that was in January. Look how far things have come in terms of public perception. I don't think she'd get as warm of a reception now, like today. I mean, I've been making these Amber videos for, I guess it's not that long, like maybe a month or so, month and a bit, almost max 2 months, I think. But throughout that whole entire span and all the videos that I've made, I've never gotten one pro Amber comment. Not one comment standing up for Amber. Not one comment on, not one. And yet, we're all Russian bots, right? So I think that's indicative of what the public perception is now and how far it's come. And I mean, that's all that we can ask for, because at the end of the day, this was all about helping Johnny redeem his reputation. But yeah, so comment down below what you thought about this. Did it make your skin crawl? Are you team Amber? I doubt it, but comment down below what you think. Also, before I go, I wanted to give a quick shout out to this channel that actually they shouted me out because I commented because I love their videos. Their name is Murder News, and it's basically like a true crime news channel where they kind of go through what's happened in true crime the past week. It's actually really well done, and I think it's gonna really take off, so I'll link them down below. If you're into true crime, highly recommend it. Yeah, and so yeah, go check them out. They're called Murder News of this video, and I don't know, I've never really seen anyone report on it or share it, or so I thought I would. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day, great week, rest of your weekend, and I hope you're staying safe, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.